Trades NL, that's Darren King. Good morning, Darren. You're on the air.
Hey, Paddy. How are you this morning?
Best kind. How about you?
I'm great, thanks. I'm great. I enjoyed your preamble. Lots of exciting issues.
There's a lot on the go. There always is. Darren, what do you know about the Premier's trip to Alberta to try to recruit skilled tradespeople in particular? Were you part of that loop, or what do you know about it?
Yeah, well, sure. We're happy to talk about it. We were part of it. It was a group from the province of employers, developers, a number of industry associations. Spent a day or so in Fort McMurray, a number of different agendas, of course. We did some touring of a couple local facilities and whatnot, but the primary event and objective was the career fair. So each of us set up and open to the public, had an opportunity to talk a little bit about what we offer, what the future holds in the province. So from our perspective, obviously we talked about skilled trades opportunities and highlighted the fact that there's a projected shortage over the next 5 years of several thousand skilled trades workers in the province, based on, of course, retirements that we're seeing and the trend of new entrants into the apprenticeship program. So it's an opportunity for us to talk about the trades that we represent, the opportunities in front of us with various projects that we're currently doing, and, of course, the wind, hydrogen, and some of the new emerging sectors that we're seeing.
I mean, currently, what's the landscape for skilled tradespeople? There must be a job out there for all hands.
Yeah, we're tight. I mean, it depends on the trade, Paddy. Like I could say to you, we're 96, 97% employed in some areas, in many areas, but there are other trades where today it's a little different than that. They're a little lower. I talked to the sheet metal manager yesterday, for example, and they have some people ready to go to work today. It's because of the nature of our business. We go in and do projects, as you know, and not just resource projects, but, we're involved, for example, in the mental health facility and some of the schools and other provincial buildings being built. So it's not a case that you get a job as a sheet metal worker or electrician and you go in and work, permanently. You go in, your job scope of work could be 6 months or 8 months and you come off the job. So, there's times that we're 100% employed in many unions for a period of time. And then, the next day there could be a layoff of 50 or 60 in that particular trade, and then they're available to go to work on another school or provincial building or to go to Labrador on a maintenance project. So our numbers really fluctuate day to day, but I think it's fair to say we're well above 90% employed, and as of our last meeting, I've been advised by all of our managers that we're recruiting in every single trade right now. All of our unions are open for business. We're looking for members. We see an aging workforce and not as many new apprentices coming in as we'd like to see. So we're open for business, and we're looking to recruit new people, and any stalled apprentices who are out there, we're looking to get them back on track and get them engaged with us.
I have a father of a daughter with she's an apprentice of one trade or another. He didn't itemize which trade it was. And, he's hearing these stories of the Premier going to Alberta, and here's all these big projects that are ongoing or in the offing, and his daughter can't get a job. How common is it for apprentices to be kind of left in a lurch here? Because there's a long way between your red seal and what can be done to help these apprentices along?
Well, you know what? It's very common, unfortunately. And there's a couple of things that we're engaged in. Your timing is kind of pretty good, actually. So first of all, we've got to focus on Indigenous apprentices, as you know. We just opened our third office, one in Labrador, one on the West Coast, and one here in town. And, we're really trying to get those stalled apprentices from the Indigenous population back on track and moving. But just finished a discussion with Econext about 20 minutes ago, and one of the projects we're working on now is focusing on stalled apprentices. And what we really got to do is those apprentices who've completed their programs and don't have work, we need to get them in the system. And from my perspective, representing unionized employers, what we need to do is to get them into one of the unions. There's grants available right now from the federal government for employers who will take apprentices on. Significant grants, anywhere from $5,000, I think, to $10,000 available per apprentice. And so I think that's the first step, is those who have the training done had to get back in the system, and they had to get an opportunity to start accumulating their hours so they can start moving forward towards their red seal and their journey for status. But on that particular case, Paddy, without knowing any detail, I certainly encourage them to call our office here. I mean, we don't run the day-to-day affairs of our unions and the membership, but we do facilitate trying to solve problems for people and putting them in touch with the right people. So I'd encourage them to reach out to us. Excuse me.
It's a good problem to have, I suppose, when there might be lots of jobs. Now, I don't have a crystal ball, but it looks very likely that at least some wind projects will get off the ground here. I know they're negotiating on near offshore wind as well for the regulatory regime, royalties, what have you. But if you just look at the numbers, even if all four of these wind projects happen, and again, I don't know, but we're talking about peak employment, 11,694. We've got numbers coming from CMHC about the need to build 60,000 homes or units in this province over the course of the next 6 years. That's 10,000 a year when a banner year in housing starts is 2,500. Then you talk about Equinor possibility out of Bay du Nord. Add in some of the other infrastructure projects, add in Bull Arm, add in everything else that's currently ongoing. Again, possibly a good problem to have, but possibly also an insurmountable problem to have. How do we approach this?
Well, first of all, I would say that it's not insurmountable for sure. Many people may not be aware of this. When I started here with this organization, it's over 8 years ago now, we peaked out in this province that we had 18,000 people working with Trades NL between Valet and Long Harbour, the Hebron project, and Muskrat Falls. There was a period of time, not a long period, excuse me, but it was a period of time where those three projects kind of peaked simultaneously. So we were employing around 18,000 people at one point in time. My point being, first of all, it's not insurmountable. Secondly, the other piece that's important here is that when I say we're 90 or 90-odd% employed, that's not all employed in the province. Probably half of those or so are out of the province. They're commuting to Fort McMurray. Okay. They're commuting to the oil sands. They're commuting to Kitimat, the LNG project in BC. And, the challenge right now, the challenge is most of those people are not coming home if we have 4 weeks work for them over on the core science building, or if we have 6 weeks work on Paradise Elementary School doing a particular job. But they will come back if there's a construction project for a year or a year and a half, and seeing that there's another project coming on the other side of that. So, I don't think that the issue is as insurmountable as some might think. We have the resource from the province working outside the province. If we can just attract some new entrants and address, from the indigenous trades and from women apprentices and the stalled apprentices, I think we'll be in decent shape. We just got to kind of get our ducks in a row right now.
One thing that will be part and parcel with this, because if they can all raise the capital in these wind, hydrogen, ammonia plays, then they might happen very similar time frames or even concurrently. Have you heard anything about trying to stagger some of these things? Because the province does have some control about timelines for green lights or final approvals or what have you, because that may indeed be a problem that I'll stop using the word insurmountable, but it may be extremely chaotic if they all try to get going at the same time, because it's the private sector. They want to get shovels in the ground and product to market first, or at least not second or not fourth. So any idea how this stagger potential conversation might sound?
Yeah, you're absolutely right on that. I've had that discussion with a number of people, obviously very biased, but I think from a trades perspective and likely from, local contractor perspective and the government's perspective, if these 4 or 5 projects, 5, I guess, because Pattern has announced they're moving forward as well, the wind hydrogen, if those 5 were staggered even 6 months, it will make a huge difference to the economy and to the employment opportunities and opportunities for local contractors. I don't think that necessarily there's a formal discussion ongoing. If there is, I'm certainly not privy to it. But my experience, and based on some interactions I'm having with some of these companies now, I suspect that some staggering is going to happen just by natural causes. I don't think it's going to have to be forced or regulated by government. I think you're going to see some proponents come out much quicker than others, and some are indicating their timelines are more like 2.5 years out. So you might see some staggering anyway, but in an ideal situation, I have to say you're 100% for the province and for the opportunities available. If we could stagger these projects so that we're not doing 5 over 3 years, but we're doing 5 over perhaps 10 or 12 years, we'd be in a much better position economically.
And even for the companies, if they have certain trades required early on and then there's a lull in that particular trade and they come back to finish a job, it's like when you do a renovation on your house. If you don't have all the subs locked down, a 6-week project can very quickly become a 16-week project. Last one, you mentioned Kitimat and the LNG facility out in BC. There's all kinds of talk about, unleashing the force of gas reserves in this country. Do you have any idea what the status of that project is?
The Kitimat project? Yeah. That project is more than 50% complete. We have a lot of people out there. There's enough going from the island. There's actually a weekly direct flight out of St. John's to BC, right for that project. It's huge. There's a lot of work going on out there. We've got a lot of people out there. I'm not sure their timelines. I think they're probably within a couple of years of completion or so. There's still a fair amount to do, but the project is is well along. And, for us, obviously, we're hopeful that that becomes a bit of a flagship, hopefully, to nudge governments along to get the LNG proposal approved here for Grassy Point out around Arnold's Cove. Because, as you know, we've got a pretty huge project here in the offing that we're trying to move forward.
Yeah, there's trillions of cubic feet of natural gas off our shores. I don't know what the business model looks like to get at it. I think it's somewhere around $5 or $6 per MMBTU to make it viable, whether you pipeline it or you compress it or liquefy it offshore. Hard to say. Hard to say what happens there. Darren, always appreciate the time. Thanks.
Yes, thanks for the opportunity, Paddy. Have a great week.
You too.
Have a great weekend.
You too. Thanks, Darren.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Darren King, Executive Director at Trades NL.